Beauty? We good to go? Are we on? Yeah. Hey, all right. Hello, friends. Sorry for the delay and mayhem that we are always working on. My name is Oliver Ox. This is our Doing Better News Sunday review, joined today for the first time, and hopefully the first of many times, by a friend of the show, Amberly. Hi, Amberly. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm so excited to have you here. So, we are going to get into some news today. Very excited to talk about some new stuff, and then later on we will be joined by TJ. We're going to talk a little bit about his experience in the military, his experience since being in the military, and then we're gonna talk about gambling. I want to get some takes on the state of gambling today. That'll be at 8:00. So let's get started into some news that I think is interesting from this week. If you are new to the show, we try to be as open-minded and nonpartisan and non-biased as we can be. So we spent a lot of the first two seasons being very critical of the Biden administration. And now Biden's not in charge anymore and Trump is. So we will probably spend most of our time being very critical of the Trump administration, although not blindly critical. There is no Trump derangement syndrome here or Trump worship syndrome on the other way. We're going to try and listen to all things from all directions. That said, let's talk drones. So a couple of months ago, we covered the story of the drones in New Jersey. Everyone remembers that. You remember the drones in New Jersey?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, everybody was obsessed. It was about 3 days, like the only thing anybody talked about in the news.
On social media platforms and TikTok, it's actually referred to as Dior.
Okay, so I just saw that that's what this...
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think probably to do with getting shadow banned or something. You can't talk about anything explicitly anywhere. You have to use code words all the time.
So I wonder if that's why my TikTok fails now. So I had a very successful, I have like 11,000 followers on TikTok. I used to have a bunch. My videos used to blow up over and over again. And I stopped posting for a while because they just got taken down over and over again. And now when I post, I get like a lot of, really quickly, I get a bunch of action and then nothing, dead in the water.
As we know, freedom of speech.
Yes.
It's going to come up.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point, actually, because typically we think about freedom of speech being under attack from governments. But that's really, I don't think, the biggest threat to freedom of speech anymore. I mean, not that it's not a threat. Clearly, governments are hostile to freedom of speech. The European Union has been very hostile to freedom of speech lately. But I think the technocrats are the ones we're really worried about.
Yeah.
The Zuckerbergs and the Musks
the billionaires.
and the billionaires, yeah. So, and it's interesting. It's interesting because with government, it's very clear, right? If our government passes any law that abridges our freedom of speech, that's violent. That's clearly against a violation of the Constitution, and we can argue against that. But if it's a private company,
I was just gonna say,
it gets a little murkier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So during the drone thing, I was a little skeptical, and there was a lot of people saying like, oh, we don't know where these from. The Biden administration basically came out and said they didn't know. At one point in time, Trump came out before he got in and said, no, we know where these are from, but I'm not going to tell you, in typical fucking Trump fashion.
He does it every time. He's like, yeah, it is us, but I don't know.
Yeah. So this guy, this is a video I found. It's a TikTok video. I think I found on TikTok. But this guy did a little independent journalism and had an interesting conclusion. Oh, you know what? I don't have my sound plugged in. Sorry. 1 second. Des, you got me good on this one? You got my sound good on the computer sound? Sorry. Jaja? Yeah? All right, we good? Here we go. Why do I hear myself over there? You good? Yeah. I can't hear this guy. Can you check that channel? That's the one. Are we good? Why am I failing here? All I see is this.
What he's saying.
I know. Better? No, still. Oh, am I?
Wait till you see.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Who owns the building?
So here we go. Let's go back to the beginning.
Shook.
Here we go.
Last night we saw where the drones were landing, and I'm going to show you exactly where today. Wait till you see who owns the building. I don't know if I should be showing you this, but I'm just going to do it. Last night on my live stream, they were coming in, okay? Down, we lose them behind this building, and then they'd go, and there's a building back here, this white building. I'm gonna zoom in a second. Oh, there it is. Let's see where this goes. Let's see where this guy goes. Where are you going, sir? Oh, wow. Wow. And it's gone. What is that building? Okay, interesting. At nighttime, I couldn't tell. But today I came out here, and I'm like, what is that building? Okay, well, do you see that blue? It looks like an NW on the logo of the top left of the building. You see the blue NW? Okay. Well, it's not really hard to see where it is because this is all one straight road. So I just drove this with my dog down the road, across, over, and found it. Okay, I found the building. Here it is. You got the NW up there, right? So that's the one that I was looking at. Now it looked like we were like they were landing kind of like in there, like in the building, and then we lose it. And I was like, I don't see anything. So I kept looking just a little further and look at the next building over. Holy shit!
That's Boeing.
What the fuck, dude? What the fuck? This is where they're landing. I don't know what's on that roof up there. I'm trying to see, but you could see, like, so I live all the way up there.
So he's going to go more into detail, but they're landing at Boeing, and this would make perfect sense. So the whole time we spent a week, with all this, all people coming with different theories. Oh, it's Iran, it's China, it's the aliens, it's whatever. All things that would make us say, oh crap, we better get better drone technology. We better spend more of our hard-earned American dollars on drones. And no, it looks like they're coming from Boeing. And there's other people who've posted similar things. There's other reporting that sort of supports this theory that this is American military contractors.
Great.
Yeah, like wicked surprising, huh? Like who
This is my shocked face.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever. I had to report that because we talked about it last time around. Okay, let's keep going. So let's get into something a little on the more controversial side. Let's get controversial. So I do my best on this show to really point us in areas that will find consensus, that we can, as working people, unite against BlackRock et al. In my opinion, I think that's the number one thing facing people. But I need to not be blindly driven by my own ideas and my own push. And I think we do need to occasionally get into things that are divisive and controversial, and this certainly meets that category. Des, would you give me over here? So the FACE Act is a... Emily, you want to explain this? Do a better job explaining this than I'm about to?
Yeah, so it stands for the freedom of access to clinic entrances. Basically, it ensures safety for providers, for people who are going to get whatever service, I guess. It's not a service. I mean, it's medically necessary treatments without, getting physically assaulted or threatened. And basically, the FACE Act adds, like an incentive to not do that, punishment towards those who are going to, be a little bit more aggressive with their pro-life agendas.
So the history of this is this didn't come out of nowhere, right? There's long been, obviously, abortion, one of the most contentious issues in this country. And there's been a long history of people protesting outside abortion clinics, and praying outside of abortion clinics, et cetera, et cetera. There's also been a history of abortion providers being shot and otherwise assaulted, people going to get them being really berated and mistreated, et cetera. So this doesn't come from this comes from a place of protecting people, both providers and people seeking those services.
Which I will say that even with the FACE Act, if you go to any sort of clinic, there's always going to be someone outside protesting, praying. It's not saying that they can't do that. It's just protecting people's safety and security. And so limiting this act is inherently dangerous, and especially for women. But it's, I mean, what do you have to say about it?
Well, so I think she's mad. So I think it seems the story here is that basically they're saying they're only going to enforce it in
extraordinary circumstances, which is like, what does that even mean? Because at this point, it's like you can protest if you're a certain color. Otherwise, it gets into being disruptive. You're a public enemy.
So I think this is a very important and careful balance to take here, because I do think it's that people's freedom of speech, freedom to protest, freedom to pray are important and things that need to be held up. There's obviously limits when you're threatening people. I mean, and threatening again is a kind of a tricky idea here, because if you're maybe not, obviously if you're directly threatening someone, right? Someone's walking in and you're hurling insults and saying, you know, I'm going to get you. That's an obvious threat. But is your presence there a threat? And I think a lot of people could construe someone outside of a clinic as, you know, depending on the way you're postured.
I think it's important to continuously remember that these aren't just abortion clinics. These are clinics where people are getting treatment for things that they can't afford necessarily, because unfortunately a lot of insurances don't cover, you know, certain STI treatments, things that aren't considered medically necessary, even though they might be.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind is that there's a socioeconomic piece to this, is that I don't think wealthy people tend to need these resources. Yeah. So, and I think there's a long history in abortion before it was legal, it being fairly safe abortion being accessible to rich people and not accessible to anybody else. And I worry that, you know, that again, loosening this up, it doesn't affect wealthy people who are going to go to a private clinic where no one has any knowledge of their business, but it is going to affect people who are going to have to go to these, you know, publicly funded or otherwise charitably funded places. So I find this troubling. I find it's certainly potentially troubling, and I don't know why. Like what the impetus for it is. Like I don't see what the benefit of being like, yeah, let's loosen up on this.
It's,
you know,
just I feel like what is continuously happening is a theme. Like we overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022 when it could have been caught. Like this isn't just a Trump, Biden, Republican, Democrat. Like they could have codified that law so many times over, and they didn't.
That's a really good point, by the way, for especially for people if you're a big Democrat and you want to get your panties in a bunch over this one because the Republicans are attacking Roe v. Wade, attacking abortion rights. There's been, like you said, there's been opportunities time and time again. I think it's been 4 or 5 times that there's been since Roe v. Wade that we've had Democrats in the Senate, Democrats in the House, and a Democrat in the presidency, and they haven't taken that opportunity. I think the reason is really cynical. I think it's because they don't want to give up their best tool to get people out to the polls. Well,
and now the Supreme Court is stacked, so when would that ever be something that is like, oh yeah, finally, federally, we can have abortions and you're not going to get persecuted as a murderer?
Yeah, I think the other thing that I found troubling about the overturn of Roe v. Wade, as someone who's a big privacy advocate, is that was the basis, my understanding at least, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the basis of that ruling was a privacy ruling, that basically the government has no right to know whether or not you're pregnant, which I think is a great basis of a ruling. Like I think that I love that as the reason of being like, no, you can't. You have no right to know whether or not a woman is pregnant.
I mean, you have no right to know anything about my body if I don't want you to know anything about my body. If your body's off limits, my body's off limits. I don't see where the debate is, but I know that people have their differences in opinions, and I respect that. However, I think that the tune is constantly threatening women. Unfortunately, it's tipping the scale. And obviously we know, like, I'll say it every time I talk about racism, sexism. Like, it's inherently a classist war, and the racism and sexism of it all is a distraction. But inherently, this is threatening women. Like, limiting the FACE Act continues to threaten our safety more than anyone else.
Yeah, and as someone who's, I think I'm not someone who. Typically, the abortion debate was set up as a pro-life versus pro-choice thing. In recent years, especially after COVID, where there's a lot of people who are pro-abortion but anti-choice when it came to vaccines, masks, businesses, etc.
My body, my choice.
Yes, so a lot of people have said, a lot of people have call themselves pro-abortion, and I'm decidedly not pro-abortion. I think abortion in most cases is a very sad thing. I'm very much pro-choice in that I don't want the government involved in anybody's body or anybody's personal medical decisions. What this doesn't get to, and I think is really important, is why are abortions so necessary right now? And I think a lot of that, if you look at the economic situation right now in this country, a lot of people just don't think they can afford to have kids. And that's a big fucking problem, like a major societal humanity problem of like, we're not doing anything to support young families, the people who are going to bring the next generation of the world. It's never been harder to bring the next generation of the world. And I think if you hate abortions, the first thing you should do is figure out how can we make it easier and more realistic for people to bring new life into the world.
Yeah, if you're pro-life, then be pro-life. Give us access to the things that we need. But to piggyback off of your I'm not pro-abortion, I don't think anyone's pro-abortion. I don't think there's anyone that wakes up in the morning and is like, oh yeah, it's time to abort this baby. Like, that's the most traumatizing thing that anyone can do to their body. So obviously it's like pro-choice. It's not pro-abortion.
Yes, I think there have been people who've made that case, but I think it's a very, very tiny portion of I think that doesn't represent very many real people's
the pro-abortion.
Opinions. The pro-abortion.
Yeah,
I think
no, that just sounds like a man who was like, well, my body, my choice. Pro-abortion. Like, it just doesn't sound logical at all.
No, I think there's some truth to that. All right, let's move on. I would love to hear anybody's thoughts on this debate. And some different perspectives that we may not be getting to. Let's talk economics. So there are some troubling economic signs right now. There's a couple of some people are relating to Trump and to tariffs. Some people are just talking about the general cycles. As we know, our economy moves in cycles. As some of you know, the central banking is really the linchpin of our economy. So it's very, there are small things that can happen with regard to interest rate adjustments, et cetera, that can have a very big impact. But there's been a few scary signs. So Des, if you give me this, please. The Atlanta Fed, the Federal Reserve Banks are the people who provide, who are in charge of our money supply, basically. I think the entire system's a scam, but that's an episode for a different day. That said, Trump, they're talking about Trump session is the words they're using here. Now, that's really a reference to tariffs. So for the most part, we have some tariffs in place right now against the countries pictured, and that's whether tariffs are justified or not justified. I think there's reason for discussion there. So like China, for example, puts tariffs on our goods. So I think you can make a pretty logical, argument that we should put tariffs on their goods. My issue with this whole tariffs talk is like, well, when are we getting a tax cut to make up for this money that you're taking? Not a tax cut for the billionaires, by the way. How about like working people? How about not taxing tips? How about not taxing Social Security? Both things Trump talked about in his campaign that I haven't seen any words on since then. So that aside, the big thing that's destabilizing about a Trump presidency is he does a lot of this like posturing around these. So we're gonna put the biggest tariffs on them, and we're gonna crush them, and and it can be disruptive to the markets. So the Fed in Atlanta has readjusted their their predictions from a 3% annualized growth to it was some fairly large number of not growth of recession. So they basically revised the number and they're predicting a recession. This is a big deal. We are sort of overdue for a recession, which is the sort of ugly truth. Usually the economy does 8 to 12 year cycles. We had a big recession in 2008. We were sort of due in 2020. COVID happened. The government printed a ton of money and sort of floated everything. Since then, we've had massive inflation. I would say those things are directly related. But we dodged a recession. Unfortunately, I think when we talk about the economy in this level, it's not something that's super meaningful to most of us. Like, do you have a ton of money in the stock market?
No, I don't.
No, me either.
Fortunately.
No, you guys got a ton of money in the stock market? No, me
From
either.
my understanding, though, the inflation was a global inflation. It wasn't just the U.S. No.
Right, but we're the world's bank.
Oh.
So like we set the what do they call it? The petrodollar, basically the U.S. dollar is the foundation of the world economy.
Oh, great.
So, but no, I mean,
That's amazing.
And if you look at we basically doubled the money supply. So when everything costs twice as much, it's because there's twice as much money in the same amount of stuff.
It's always our fault.
I mean, so the problem with what happened with the COVID money in a lot of places, like, so we got a couple checks for $1,200. That was great, but the corporations got much bigger checks. So if you look at Amazon, Walmart, the big ones, they all grew by massive percents during this time, right? Because they didn't shut down Walmart at any point in time. No. So they shut down your local mom and pop. They shut down lots of small businesses. They permanently basically killed like 60% of black-owned businesses in this country with those shutdowns. But Walmart, for some reason, COVID didn't seem to get into Walmart, so you could line up with 1,000 people in a line at Walmart, and that was just totally fine. And as a result, big corporations did very, very well. The CARES Act basically represented the largest transfer of wealth from the government and working class people to rich people in the history of the world. I think it's interesting because when we haven't been in recession, but it doesn't feel like we're booming. Like if you look around the other working people, it's not like working people are like, hey, yeah, the markets are doing great, and the markets have been doing great. For most of the last few years, markets very, very strong. Made a great recovery after COVID. Lots of billionaires making lots more billions, but most of the people I know are working lots of jobs and not having a whole lot of extra spending money, are really struggling to pay their bills. So it seems like when we talk about recession or a boom in the economy, I don't know how meaningful that is to most people. I think it's very unmeaningful to most people. However, when there's a recession, we hurt extra. Working people, so for 2008, 2009, they gutted a lot of people's retirement funds. A lot of public unions had their retirement funds really badly hurt because they had invested in the economy, in Wall Street, et cetera. So that's, while working people don't seem to get the benefits of a boom in the economy, we definitely feel the hurt when it dies. So a little concerning looking forward. And Trump's fault, not Trump's fault, I think probably big picture, probably not. I don't think there's a whole lot that presidents do to affect these major economic cycles. Of course, it seems like some of this tariff talk is destabilizing and could be a part of it, but I think it's oversimplified to be like, Trump's causing a recession. I think maybe we're sort of due. But again, what do I know? People who are better read on any of this stuff, I'd love to hear your takes. All right, couple more things to get through today that I want to talk about. Let's talk about, I have been, if you've been watching the show, I've been very critical of one particular senator, Ms. Elizabeth Warren, often ends up in my sights, and for very good reason, because when she campaigned, she ran a laudable campaign in which she called out the banks, she called out the corporations, and was looking like she was going to go in and wreak some havoc on the billionaires. And I don't think she's done any of that. I think she's done a whole lot of advocating for the billionaires and protecting the billionaires. However, One of the targets of the cuts of Doge and Trump, which we'll get to in a minute, actually. Oh, I forgot to put that in. We'll get to in a minute, actually. Has been the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I'm not a huge fan of federal bureaucracies. This is one that is not one I would cut. If I was going through with it, with slashing with Doge, this would be the very bottom of my list to even look at, because their job is to look out for consumers. If you get scammed by or mistreated by a bank or screwed over by the corporation that you're buying things from, etc., you're supposed to go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And in these times of more scams than you can even begin to deal with, and huge corporations with huge amounts of power and not a whole lot of honesty and in the way that they deal with us, I think this is something that we absolutely need. And Elizabeth Warren did a really good job calling this out. She was very critical of the Treasury and acting CFP director Scott Bresnett, because he's been halting all the enforcement of and the investigations into the stuff. This is a particularly important freedom of speech piece to it, which is debanking. And we talked about debanking, and we're very, very critical of Justin Trudeau in Canada and some American corporations. What's the donation one? When you donate money to not give, send, go. What's the one that everyone uses to raise money? If like you want to pay for your aunt's funeral or whatever. GoFundMe. There we go. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So we're very critical of them, because when the truckers protested the mandates in Canada, they got debanked. They literally, GoFundMe took their money away. They got their bank accounts closed based on this, which I think is about as horrific of a violation of freedom of speech as you can come up with. And this allows, limiting the CFPB is going to allow people to do that. It's going to allow more debanking. And I find this really troubling with the Elon Musk piece, because Elon Musk has, I don't know if you're familiar with his, he wants X to be like a everything platform. And one of the things he talked about a couple of years ago was making X a payment platform, was making X so you could do all your Venmo-y sort of things on X as well.
He wants that.
So the timing of this is really fishy, because that's the specific type of people that would be that we need to overlook, make sure they're not screwing people over or debanking people. Make sure you don't go and say fuck Tesla, I hate Teslas, and then all of a sudden Elon Musk is like, I'm taking your money, or I'm canceling your account, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously that's a silly example, but
is it? I feel like he is that petty.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean,
the White House is a Tesla dealership right now. He's that petty.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the American government's been selling Teslas for a very long time under the entire Biden administration, right? We were giving $7,500.
No, yeah.
Right? So
for the the electric. I mean, yes, clean cars we want, but Elon Musk, oh my fucking God.
Yeah, well, and I think we need to be careful about not exporting pollution, which is, I think, a lot of when you look at solar panels, when you look at lithium-ion batteries, electric cars. Yes, so if you buy an electric car, the air in your city will be cleaner than if you drove a gas car. But I don't know so much about the air in the places where the factory where they made that battery. I don't know about the where they dug, where they mined for the metals for that battery, et cetera, et cetera. There's a reason that they do all those things in China and India and the Congo and not here. So I think we need to, and same thing is true with solar panels. Obviously, you put a solar panel on your house, that's good for your local area. You are getting energy that does not require any carbon, any pollution. But making that solar panel required a lot of carbon, a lot of pollution. Now, I think solar panels long term are going to sort of pay for themselves in that way. But it's not a zero-sum equation. It's not a, this is great and wonderful, this is terrible. It's it's a balancing act, and we have to look at these things. So anyway, I think we need to keep a very close eye on the technocrats. I think we need to keep a very close eye on people who are trying to control the way that money moves. Like we always should have been, by the way. Okay. let's get into something sad and horrible that's been happening and that I think was entirely predictable. So for about a month ago, we were all celebrating. About a month ago, we were all celebrating. Assad is gone in Syria. We got rid of Assad in Syria. Everything is wonderful now. I will. We'll check in with our comments in a minute. So right now we got Syria has been basically taken over by Islamists who are effectively Al Qaeda. The guy who's the leader of this group there was a $10 million reward for his capture until he took over Syria, and because he went against Assad, we did the American thing, which is like, oh, they're not really terrorists if they're on our side. And since then, since the overthrow of Assad, which I thought was not an entirely good thing. I'm not a pro-Assad guy, but Assad had done a good job protecting Christians in that country who were a minority. Assad had the country fairly stable. He had been fighting a war against ISIS, Al Qaeda, for about 10 years. We had been funding the other side of that war, which is a little troubling. There was a proxy peace in that Russia had been sort of supporting Assad while we were supporting the terrorist freedom fighters, call them what you will, on the other side. Anyway, Assad's gone. And the Islamists are in these Islamic extremists, and they've killed 1,000 people in the last 2 days. Revenge killings, lots of really. There's a massacre of Christians and Alawites in Syria. So this is what happens when we go and meddle in other countries, almost without fail. And every time it's because we're pro-democracy, we're going to save these poor people, Operation Iraqi Freedom, et cetera, one after the other. There's always a reason why we have to go and save the day. And almost without fail, we leave the situation worse than it was. And at the greatest cost you can imagine. Human life. Think about we will be sitting down with a vet later on this afternoon. I have a lot of good friends who've served. These are our young, bravest, strongest people that we're sending overseas, and we're putting them in harm's way very, very easily, very readily. We're just, let's go fight this war in another country. Go take care of this. And I'm really troubled by how readily and how easily we're willing to send off brave young men and women and put them in harm's way. And if you look at how many of our senators and representatives have kids that are in the military, it's like zero, because they're all millionaires and they don't need their kids to join the military.
Yeah.
And it's
I don't remember if you were the one that posted this or if I just saw this, but it was someone posting like that the people who are screaming about war are never the ones that are fighting it. Never. And I find it so troubling. There's few greater resources than your 18 to 30-year-old brave, strong people who are willing to sign up and serve their country and make that sacrifice. And we're just like, just send them over there. Oh, different countries, send them over there. Oh, we got to do this. We get some profits for BlackRock at stake. Let's just send them over there. And I think we've been doing this for 25 years. We've been doing it since 9/11. And we need to really rethink the way that we're doing this, because it's no joke. War is no joke. War is horrific. And when it has to happen, when you have to go and use violence to protect people, we need to make sure that we're actually protecting people, that we're not just sending people off to do the bidding of corporations and neocons, quite frankly. All right, let's hold off on this one. I want to talk. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it kind of goes with what you were.
All right. You want? All right. So. All right. So we got one other one here. So let's talk about this. This is one that you found, Amberly. You want to talk about this story?
So Trump shared a silly little symbol that was widely used during World War II.
Pink triangle?
Yeah, a little pink triangle to identify the LGBTQIA plus individuals. And Trump's messaging for the military recently has been, it is really hard to kill strong men. With that, he's also using the triangle as like anti-gay, anti-trans. And, you know, a lot of people will say, if they want to serve in the military, let them. And I feel the same way. If they're strong-willed enough to do so, why are we preventing them? But yeah, I mean, the dog whistle has apparently become a foghorn. We're using Nazi symbolism to marginalize and prevent people from serving our country.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to I'm not a big one for symbolism in general. So I tend to be not an overreader into things, but
I think there's a consciousness. You're doing these things in the public eye. You are holding such a huge position. You're in the position of power. You should be more conscious of what you're sending to your people.
That's a very fair point. I think that's
that's how I felt about when people. Elon didn't mean to do that. He didn't mean to hail Hitler. Yeah, okay, sure. But he's also in front of how many people doing that very publicly and is now a part of the government?
Yeah.
Doing that? Like, no, you have to be more cognizant of your actions. And if we can't have people in power that are cognizant of such little things, it's the most minute thing that you could just not do.
I think that's fair. I don't think there's any reason to believe either of those people are Nazis. However, I do think you make a very good point that they should take responsibility. Being at that role, you go to the very top of government, you need to take responsibility.
They're too emotional to do so. You know,
That's fair.
They're too ego driven to admit when they're wrong. Men are just, you know.
All right. So two other little things I want to get into. No, big things actually. One I forgot to bring up. Thomas Massie has got the attention of Donald Trump again. Donald Trump is big mad at Thomas Massie because Thomas Massie refused to vote for the continuing resolution. So there's we need a new budget. And Trump and the Republicans have not put a budget forward yet. So they're doing what's called the continuing resolution when they basically say, we're going to do the old one. Thomas Massie has came out and didn't vote for that because he said, he's made a couple of good points. One, he's not voting for anything that doesn't have any spending cuts. So agree or disagree with Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is pretty much a libertarian. He has very strong views, which you may or may not agree with. But I think if you have to give one person in the entire federal government credit for sticking to their guns, Thomas Massie gets it. Like, Thomas Massie sticks to his guns, and Thomas Massie he's a libertarian. He's a conservative. He wants less government and he wants less spending. And Trump is pushing forward a budget that has more government and more spending. There are no cuts. So Thomas Massie has come out and not voted for it, and Trump completely lit into him. The other piece of this, which is really important, is that this continuing resolution means we're funding all the things that DOJ is cutting. Which to me seems unserious. Like, is DOJ this great thing that you're going and cutting all this waste, and we need to make sure we're not funding, transgender mice in, Afghanistan or whatever the one of the day is, right? Like, whatever. So it's either really serious business and we need to make sure that we're cutting those things in any future budgets, or it's all theater. And to me, the fact that Trump wants a continuing resolution, he doesn't want to go and make these permanent cuts, means he's not serious. And I'm someone who's been my take on DOJ is I think generally there's a phenomenal amount of waste in the federal government, and I absolutely think there's a huge amount of cuts that could and should happen. I can't think of a worse person to do it than Elon Musk. someone who gets billions of dollars in federal contracts, should have no role in this whatsoever. There's lots of very capable auditors around the country who would nerd it up the fuck up and go right through line by line and be like, well, here's another $12,000 that we could cut because whatever. We're getting overcharged by Boeing for toilet seats in military camps by this much. Watch out for that one. The Department of Defense is a huge, has huge overspending to military contractors. So it just, to me, shows that they're not serious about any real cuts. And I think it sort of fits the same old plan. Republicans, when they're out of office, want cuts and accountability and less spending. And they get into office, they're like, nah, we're going to spend some money. And I make a similar argument against Democrats. Democrats don't like wars when they're out of power, and then they get in power and they're like, yeah, we love these wars actually. So I think this is just a great example.
You said it perfectly the other day. It's just one party.
It certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
It certainly feels that way. So last issue, which also feels very uni-party. The most troubling story of the week in my mind is the arrest and deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. He was a central figure in the protests at Columbia University, and he's here on a green card. He's a legal immigrant to this country. There are lots of ways to legally immigrate. It's very difficult to do it, by the way. I came into this country on a green card. I legally immigrated with my family. My dad worked for a tech company. That's how we came to this country. And even with all those advantages, coming from sort of the best, most privileged way, maybe not the most privileged way, one of the more privileged ways to come into this country, it was an incredibly horrendous process. 10 years, and this is before the internet, driving back and forth to the immigration center in Boston, and it's a lot. It's a really difficult process. So this gentleman, Mahmoud Khalil, has done this. He was active in protests against the Israeli government and what they did in Gaza, and he was basically disappeared by ICE. They went and they grabbed him. Marco Rubio canceled his green card, and then ICE picked him up and then took him to a detention center, not in New York where he lives, in Louisiana. So he would be isolated from his family. This is about a cut and dry assault on freedom of speech as you can possibly get. Now, the arguments that you will get against this, well, he's not a citizen, he doesn't get those rights. False. That's just not true. There's 200 years of constitutional law that you give the same protections to immigrants, to legal immigrants that citizens have. So that's
especially because they came here legally. They did it exactly the way that you wanted them to.
Bingo. So there's really no justification for this. There's a second case as well that is less publicized. So this is Fabian Schmidt. This came up on my view because this guy lives in New Hampshire, right in my home state. So this guy is a German green card holder who also he was coming back into the country and basically got disappeared by ICE. Was supposedly stripped naked and aggressively interrogated. I will get back to the same things that I always get back to, which is decency and basic morals. It is immoral to treat people that way. And if that's what we're going to do as a society, just know that we're dropping our standards. It's okay to treat people that way, you're next. You're next on the chopping block. This was Marco Rubio. So it's going to be very easy for Democrats to go, Trump, you bad immigrant hater. Marco Rubio got 99 out of 100 possible votes on in his confirmation hearing. Elizabeth Warren voted for Marco Rubio. Bernie Sanders voted for Marco Rubio. Go right down the line. They all voted for Marco Rubio. It's not a surprise that Marco Rubio is like this. He's been a neocon his entire career. He's never found a war he didn't like. He's never found a restriction on freedom of speech he didn't like unless it was his speech. So these people are... this just reeks of uniparty to me. It absolutely reeks of uniparty, and we need to demand more. And again, whether or not you like this guy's politics, this is the whole point of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is for speech that you hate. Yep. It's for things that you think are disgusting for another person to say. Well, he supports Hamas. Well, A, there's no evidence of that. B, you have a right to support Hamas.
Well,
if you say, I think Hamas is right and Israel is wrong, you have a right to say that. Even if that's a horrible thing to say, you have a right to say that.
And
That's what freedom of speech
haven't
means.
heard of any pro-Israeli protester getting this treatment, and they are outwardly asking for violence against Palestinians, outwardly saying very horrible things. I don't see anything, like nothing on the news. The only time I see it is unfortunately on my social media feed.
No,
There's no persecution, but you can take someone's green card away because they're advocating for basic human rights.
Yeah, or again, arguing for a something that you don't agree with.
Right.
Lots of
Which,
people argue
yeah,
every
is
day
the
for things they
point
don't agree
of
with.
Freedom of speech.
Well, one extra little layer to this, Dana, if you give me my screen real quick. The professor at the center of this scandal in Columbia, the one who was talking about all this horrible anti-Semitism on campus, used to be a spy for Israel. Used to be. So I think this is yet another case in which we may have some elements of other governments that are
Once a narc, always a narc.
having a very big impact on our own. So this is her pictured with Hillary Clinton.
Look at them; they look so happy.
They look so happy. War criminals yucking it up together.
I love it.
Yeah. So that is my last story for the day. Amberly, you got anything you want to add to our news discussion for the day?
No, I think we covered most of it.
So this all feels a little black pilly, but there's good news. People are waking up in a way that has never happened before. There are more people that are hip to these stories that are outside the mainstream media that the corporate media doesn't really want us talking about. There's more people seeing past the left-right divide than ever before. We got to keep having these conversations. We got to keep doing it in a way that's respectful and open-minded. We need to stop being cheerleaders for your favorite politician. They don't give a shit about you.
They really don't.
Your neighbor who you're going to go yell and argue with about your favorite politician will stand up for you. If someone breaks into your house, your neighbor will probably come and help you. If you need a little sugar because you're making a cake, you need a couple eggs, your neighbor will help you out. The politician you're cheerleading for will not. So we need to, as always, unite in our communities. We need to work in our communities. We need to take power back in our communities. We need to help each other. We need to get involved in our local government and take as much of this power back because we see what they do with it. And they'll pretend that they fight against each other all day. Elizabeth Warren and Donald Trump will go out with boxing gloves on like they hate each other. And when they're both out of office, they'll be playing golf together and sipping cocktails and talking about their new corporate jobs. So we can do better, and we are doing better. That's all I got for today. We will be back with the Doing Better show in 10 minutes. We got 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. We got a great interview. We're going to hear from our friend TJ and chat about gambling and the state of gambling in this country. Is this something we should be happy about, scared about? Is this good for working people? Is this bad for working people? Let's chat about it. If you have any input, let me know. Thanks, guys.
says crush blunts and smash the patriarchy. That's what we live for.
I feel like.
Can we do a sound check for this mic?
Des, I did a quick one, but make sure Des.
Check.
You gotta turn them up.
No, sorry, it's on.
We're live, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, we're live?
Yeah, we should be live.
Which one is that? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, he's 5.
1, 2, 3, 4.
My computer's 6.
No, your computer's 9, actually.
Listen, whatever. Are we there? Yeah, we good? Are we on? What's up?
Are we there?
Am I performing?
Is the mic? The mic's not on.
Oh, is the switch on? Is that? How about
That'll
now?
probably be helpful.
That's a lot. Yeah, there we go.
Check.
There we go.
We're live,
We're
yeah.
professionals here.
We're doing it.
Are we live? Is it
we're
beginning?
live.
Oh, sorry. Hello, friends. Sorry about the delay and the general unprofessional mayhem. I blame Engineer Des. He will be the scapegoat for today. Welcome back. If you just joined us on our Doing Better News Sunday review, thank you for coming back. Please keep the comments coming. I got a couple of links that I was sent that we'll be checking out and talking about next week. Thank you very much. We are here for a discussion. We got our friend of the show, TJ, in the house. What's up, TJ?
How you doing?
Thank you for joining us. Also here with me, as always, Broadcast Deezy. What's up, Deezy?
Yo.
How are you?
I'm here for the discussion. Oh, I was here the whole time, but now I'm involved. I just dropped my phone.
And Amberly's here.
Hello.
Lovely to have you.
Now her hair's up.
Lovely to be here. Yes, I switched up the hair. I need to change every 5 seconds, otherwise I don't feel. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I definitely don't wear the same hoodie and hat every single fucking
You should
day.
have taken the hat off.
Yo, you should see my hair
Switch
right now.
the-
It's a
switch the
problem.
angle.
It will not. Yeah. No, but then I got no like no. Honestly, I've been growing my hair out for months, and it's fucking rugged right now.
I
So
feel like the cap angle is so millennial coded.
I mean, I'm a millennial.
I
So
know you're elder millennial.
Oh, she has to fucking point that out.
I just
too.
had to. Well, I had because I'm younger or elder. He's Gen Z. What are you?
Millennial.
Okay,
Wait, you're millennial or Gen Z?
I'm millennial.
Yeah,
Barely.
but a young millennial, unlike my
Very.
fucking
The
crusty old
youngest.
ass. Yeah.
Might as well be Gen Z.
Ooh.
That was crazy.
Oh,
So today we got a couple. We'll have a chat. So the only issue we're going to get into, we're going to talk about gambling a little bit later on. But for now, we're going to talk to TJ and we're going to learn about his life. So what brings you to us? What brought you here today?
Well, first off, I'm here to talk about my experiences in the military. I was in the United States Marine Corps for 8 years.
Thank you for your service.
And thank you for your support. And yeah, that's basically it. Like, I'm here to just share those experiences, the good times, of course, and a bit of the hard times. But yeah, ask away. I'm here for you.
Well, we really appreciate that because we talk often about things military related. As you were here watching the show before. We talk often on this. This is I'm fortunate enough, I should say, depending on your perspective, that I've never had to experience any of what you've experienced, and I think most Americans, unfortunately, are very much insulated from the results of our foreign policy, right? Like we have a very small percentage of our country are military people related to military. And I think it's always troubling to me when we go off on our military escapades that so many of us have so little skin in the game. That for so many of us, we don't really have anything to risk. While for other people, they're risking it all, literally risking it all, and their families are risking it all. So with that in mind, why did you join the military?
Oh, I love that question. It's crazy. Looking back at it, I had no intention of joining the military.
Wow.
Not at all. I was never that patriotic. I wasn't that American hero waking up one day, yeah, America. For me, I'm gonna be honest, I did it for my own selfish reasonings. So I did JROTC in high school. Shout out Lawrence High. It was for the Army. I loved it. It was an easy A. It was like a gym class. However, although it instilled some type of discipline, it didn't instill enough for me to be like, let me go serve, let me do something for my country. I actually, at the time, hated this country with.
Really?
Yeah, because due to, me being put in the state of adversity and poverty, and then on top of that, like, leaving the Lawrence lines. Here we're the majority, you know what I mean? Out there we're not. So like leaving the Lawrence lines when I was a kid, I would unfortunately be placed in a lot of racist moments with others, you know what I mean?
For those of you that don't know, so we're in Lawrence, Mass right now. It is 90% plus Hispanic, something like yes, right. So a very big Hispanic community, lots of Puerto Rican people, lots of Dominican people, quite a few more influxes of South American, Central American people in the last 10, 20 years. This is while Lawrence is a very diverse city, some of the cities around Lawrence are historically not very diverse. So Lawrence is one of the poorer cities in Massachusetts, and it's right next to Andover, which is one of the wealthiest cities in Massachusetts. And it's not as stark today as it was when I was growing up. But when I was growing up, and I had friends in Lawrence, I don't think I had any friends in Andover, but you go between the two places, and you in a 5-minute drive, you can go from one neighborhood in which you only see Hispanic people to another neighborhood in which you will never see a Hispanic person, you will only see white people. And the police historically were part of enforcing that divide, I would say. I don't know if that's still a fair thing to say, but it certainly was a fair thing to say 20 years ago. So that just to put a little context into that for those who are not from this area.
So fast forward, I did my freshman year of college. Shout out UNH, University of New Hampshire. Going there, that was the first time I was like, oh, there's not enough of me here. You know what I mean? It was 92% white and 8% minorities.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Really? UNH?
My freshman year of college.
I thought you were serious for a second. I was like,
8% minorities as a whole.
Wait, are you serious?
I mean, I've never hung out at I hung out at
You're
UNH
kidding.
once and I didn't love it, but I didn't know that's a wild number.
It was so.
I mean, more than just like the Lawrence Andover line, like Massachusetts as a whole. I mean, who is the majority in this country? You know what I'm saying? Like, there are places that are centralized and there are minorities, but like New Hampshire, come on.
Well, you've been to Salem or Nashua? I mean, those are both.
Yeah,
those
but like
are both.
still, it's still not like, I don't know. Like, I just went to DR, and that was amazing. You know, it's like you only see white people at the resorts, and we weren't really at the resorts at all. So it was very refreshing. But like, even here, it's like UMass Lowell is considered diverse, and my friend who's from Worcester was like, I've never seen so many white people in my life.
Wow. See, I'm surprised by that. I mean, obviously, New Hampshire is demographically a very white place. But universities, especially state universities, I thought were encouraging a lot more diversity than 8%.
They would encourage, yeah.
Wow. I'm really taken aback by that stat. Sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No, it's all good. So freshman year, I did a walk-on to play basketball. I knew I wasn't gonna get a scholarship, so I had to figure out what am I gonna do to pay all this money back. Although I had loans and financial aid, I knew I was gonna have like a good at least 30 to 40,000 towards my senior year, like to the end of my senior year, that I would have to pay back eventually. So I was thinking ahead. I was trying to think ahead of time. You know what I mean? I started doing I had a work study job, and then I had a job off campus. I worked at Hollister at the Fox Run Mall in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Newington, Portsmouth. And I remember it's towards the end of the first semester. I'm doing the jean rack. Out of nowhere, randomly, some guy comes in with his wife shopping, this and that. And if you are in the military and you know what a recruiter does, yeah. If you know, you know. He got me. So he came, he saw me. He asked a question about the jeans. I answered the question. I told him, I'm still fairly new, so I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Like, ask them. The shorties, they got that. Then he was like, "Yo, you look mad fit," and I appreciated that statement. And then he went on and asked, well, "Have you ever thought about joining the military, especially the Marine Corps?" I'm like, "To be honest, sir, like, nah, I'm all set." I thought about joining the military maybe later on in my life, maybe like when I'm some age of 30, 29, around there. And that would be the Army, probably going to the Natty Guard, the National Guard. I don't know. He's like, oh, like he gives me the whole spiel, and I'm still, declining the offer. Eventually, he was like, listen, I kind of want to continue this conversation. Like, just hear me out. Let me take you out to dinner. We can go wherever you want, and then we'll continue this conversation. I'm a freshman in college. I'm not gonna deny free food. You know what I mean? Those ramen days were real. So I took him on his offer. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings because I wasn't gonna do him dirty. I was thinking about let's go Strega in Boston. Right? Thinking Del Frisco's just kidding. So we ended up going to Buffalo Wild Wings. And one thing about the Marine recruiters is they have this collection of I don't know if they're metal or plastic, but these cards, and they're different core values. So it has honor, integrity, commitment, courage, all that, right? He told me, yo, pick three out of the 5 or 6 that was there. I picked the 3, and then he went on. He's giving a spiel. He's doing what a recruiter does, and he's doing a damn good job. Yeah. Because I'm there, I'm like, oh, really? Oh.
Well, and especially for the Marines. The Marines is no joke, right? That is a very tough assignment to join the Marines.
So one thing about the Marine Corps, we are known for our... Is it okay to swear?
You can say whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, we are known for our badass mentality, our badass reputation. We are the first come, first serve, the few, the proud. That's always been... our slogan, mainly because of the fact that the Marine Corps is the poorest branch. We are technically not our own branch. Like we are a branch because our reputation made it a branch.
But it's under the Navy, right?
We're a department of the Navy. Yes. So with that being said, we get funds out of the Navy. That's basically our payroll. You know what I mean? So we don't really get as many resources, and because we have such limited resources, we still get the job done. Whether they send us out, whether we are the tip of the spear, which is they send us out first and whatever, or if they send us out secondary. Another thing too, we are all 3, air, land, and water. I know Marines, it sounds just water, and we are a Department of the Navy, but we are all 3. We have helicopters, we have Ospreys, we have people that fly jets, fighter jets, etc. And then obviously we're attached to the Navy, so we'll go in the water as well. We'll go on ships, and then our infantry will land. If you have an infantry, you are land.
So sorry I interrupted. You were telling your recruiter was giving you the hard sell.
Yes. So the moment that he said, and there's also educational benefits, it'll pay for school, I was like, right then and there, I'm like, yo, there it is. That's what I need. The VA loan is cool, like for a potential house in the future, disability benefits, that's all cool. But the moment he said my education was going to be paid for, I was like, sign me up. I'm with it.
Do you think that's a common thing? Do you think that's a common reason for a lot of people when the other recruits that you went in with, did a lot of them give the same reasons for that, or were there more reasons?
No. Not so it's like kind of like balanced out. Cause I met a lot of in boot camp. I met a lot of fellow Marines that joined because they really didn't have nothing to do with their lives. You know what I mean? They thought that would be a nice route that could potentially lead them into law enforcement, or lead them to gain that discipline that they didn't necessarily had from the beginning. Some people, you know, I wouldn't call him a buddy because he wasn't a buddy, but I had a fellow Marine. When one of the drill instructors asked him, "Why are you here?" He said, "For a bed and for food, like for a shelter and for supper." Basically implying that, you know, he was homeless. You know what I mean? He had nothing to do with it, and he was young. He was like probably like at the time like 2 years older than me. The drill instructor definitely like chewed his ass out. He was like, "Oh, you're so selfish. Like, oh, this is what you're doing it for. You don't have no pride." Blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, we all get it. Like, if this is at the end of the day, that's another job.
But and what you're saying is that's similar to what you're saying is that it's an economic thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll see when the economy does worse and people are struggling, it's easier for the military to recruit, right?
Yeah, because it's true. You get a bed, you get a free bed. You're not paying rent. Like, technically, your rent comes out of your paycheck. Like, you don't get a really big check. You know what I mean? But you're getting free food. You're getting free rent. You're getting transportation wherever you need to go, or you're gonna be in a base where everything is nearby. On top of that, you're also getting a status, because once you're a military personnel, what happens I don't know if you guys know, but when I go to the airport, I don't go to the check myself in line. You know what I mean? I don't do no robot stuff. I go straight to freaking what's it called, priority.
Yep.
Like, if it's American Airlines, they have their own priority or their own service line for wheelchairs, for those with kids, and etc. You know what I mean? I go there, I tell them, they ask me if I have my check-in ticket. I tell them, no, I need you to do it for me. Give them my military ID. I get 2 free check-in bags. I mean, I think we all get 1 free carry-on. And then, depending on the airlines, you know, there's certain discounts. Yeah. But there's like certain, and then free TSA pre-check. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like benefits, a lot of privileges when it comes to being a military personnel. So that's part of that status.
Yep.
Going back, so that recruiter, once he mentioned the education, I was down for it. He left a small part out, and that's what recruiters do. They're not gonna tell you everything. This is their job.
It's sales.
This is how they get. This is how they get paid. Yep. They're gonna tell you what you want to hear, but they're gonna either leave some stuff out, or they're gonna tell you that stuff, but to the point where it's not gonna seem important, and then bring out the things that you want to hear back. So that's more important. You know what I mean?
Sales.
It's like a little psychological.
Yeah. Yep. So what was that? What was that thing that he left out?
Oh, so yes, in the military you get two GI. You have the GI Bill, right?
Yep.
And there's 2 bills in the GI Bill. You have the Montgomery GI Bill, and then you have the post 9/11 GI Bill. The Montgomery GI Bill, shit, that shit is like book money. You know what I mean? Like, you'll get paid like approximately like around $300 or maybe a little bit more every month while you're in school status.
Oh, but they're not putting you through school with that.
No, like if you do the math, like 300 times a semester is like probably approximately like 3 months. 2 semesters, that's 6. 6 times 4, that's 24. 300 times 24, yeah, that's not even close to 1 year of tuition. You know what I mean? The Montgomery Bill is basically like book stipends.
Okay.
The post 9/11 is what pays for everything. Now, one thing he left off is, in order to be eligible for the post 9/11 GI Bill, you need to have gone in a 6-month active status or pretty much a deployment.
What does that mean for those of us who are ignorant? What does 6-month active status or deployment mean?
So, when you join the military, you have 2 options. If you join the Marine Corps, Navy, and I believe it's the Coast Guard, you have 2 options: either active duty or reserves. Army and Air Force, because the Air Force is part of the Army, you have those 2 plus National Guard. National Guard is literally the same thing as the reserves. The reserves and the National Guard, you train 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the year. I started out in the reserves. Active duty, this is your full-time job, this is your life until your contract ends. So like it's like
it's a full-time job.
Yeah, like I'm getting stationed to bumfuck wherever, you know what I mean? This is where I'm living, this is where I'm working, and you know, occasionally I will get deployed because that's what happens. Regardless if we have some type of combat in situations or not, you get deployed regardless.
So deployed doesn't necessarily mean into combat. Deployed just
No.
means getting sent overseas.
Because you gotta think about it this way. We always have someone out there. So right now, like let's say I'm in a unit right now. This is our unit. There's someone in Japan right now. Eventually, they're not gonna stay there forever. They have deployments is a minimum of 6 months. Once that time is up, they need someone to be replaced.
Gotcha.
To replace them, you know what I mean? So, going back, reserves is 1 week in a month, and active duty is until your contract ends. Now, sorry, I'm trying to go back. I'm trying to remember what we were just talking about.
So you started in the reserves, you said.
I started in the reserves. With the Montgomery, you get paid $300. Okay, so post 9/11.
Yeah.
The post 9/11, you get paid after you do 6 month active status. Now, technically, boot camp right there is 3 months. Boot camp was 92 weeks. And then after boot camp, you come back for 10 days to, like, you know, distress. Because boot camp for the Marine Corps boot camp is the worst basic training out of all branches. And it's so bad that if I wanted to switch over to the Army, Air Force, or whatever, I don't have to go through their basic training. I can go straight to their schooling, learn my job, and then boom, I get the same rank that I was just at. If someone from the Army or whatever wanted to join the Marines, they have to go through our boot camp.
Gotcha.
Because our boot camp is that intense. You come back for 10 days, distress, and then you leave for additional 2 months minimum, I believe, to a school where you learn your job. So I was infantry. I started as a basic rifleman, and I went to SOI, which is the School of Infantry. Did that for 2 months. Once you finish that 2 months, you come back. You get sent to where you're stationed, like your duty station.
Yep.
So for me, it was Londonderry, New Hampshire. Now technically, you're doing that every day. You're technically active every day, and then that's approximately 6 months. But the cheat code is they don't count that, even though that you did go through it. It's not counted, because schools will literally deny you right there, like, oh, you have not been on a deployment, or you have not been activated or been on active duty for 6 months.
Gotcha.
So when I got in, I tried to use the post 9/11. I think I was already a year in, and they wouldn't let me do it because I'm reserved, so I'm not active duty, and then also I have not been on a deployment.
Okay.
I went on my first deployment, and this is the part that sucks too. I went on my first deployment 2 weeks after I graduated from UNH. They don't backtrack. So
Okay.
if I want to use my GI Bill for my master's degree, I can. But my bachelor's degree, I'm still paying out of pocket right now.
Got you.
So I did it for the education. You know, I remember telling my mom that night when I got home, she's like, what the fuck you talking about? No. My grandmother.
She didn't want you to join?
No one wanted me to join. I mean, that's the thing too about families. When it comes to you either asking the question, can I do this? Or you telling them I want to do this. It is the influence and it's the perspective that because of what you see in the movies or because of what is being talked about, you automatically think, oh, if my son or daughter joins the military, they're gonna die. No. Let me tell you something, like, not even close. I want to say like less than 50%. Definitely less than 50%. Maybe like less than 30% actually see combat. You know what I mean? And there's so many jobs in the military, so many jobs that you won't even be even in a combat area. You know what I mean? It's usually just the infantry, or battleships if you're in the Navy, or fighter jets if you're flying. You know what I mean? It's those people that see combat. But if you are supply working in a warehouse, you are not. You're gonna be in a fob if you are in a combat area. A fob is basically the base, like the main base, and the likelihood of that base being overrun or invaded or bombed or whatever is not as likely. The percentage is very low. Like,
So you said your first deployment was after you graduated.
yes.
Was that coincidence, just right after you graduated, or was it after you graduated you were like, okay, I'm ready to go for like
Coincidence.
okay.
Yeah, it was like we had been told the year before. So when I was a junior, for a reserve unit, you get activated every 6 years, I believe. It's like 6 to 8 years, something like that. That year was my year. Like, that year was the year that we were due for a deployment. And we had to go switch out people. I ain't gonna lie. I was, the moment I heard about it, I was down for it, because when I joined the military, when I joined the Marines, I did it for my selfish reasons. It was for the education. I'm gonna be honest, I was hoping to God that I would not see any type of combat or anything, you know what I mean? But the moment that you go through boot camp, it's a suffering. Them drill instructors, they are the real deal. Like, what you see in the movies is not close to what you deal with in boot camp. And like, let me tell you something. They're there to destroy you, to strip you down, to strip your humanity, and build a Marine. Like, and psychologically, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy how that's actually a thing. So going through those 3 months towards the end, I came to that realization, like, yo, bro, I did not do this shit for no reason. These 3 months was hell. I got punched in my face. I got spat in my face because they teach drill instructors how to yell, unlocking salivary glands for them to spray you while they yell. So it's not them spitting on you, it's just them cheese balling, but the cheese balling is excessive. It's crazy. Delicious. It's like a waterfall. And it's worse when they have a fucking dip packed in their lip. Oh my God, let me tell you something.
Spicy.
That's nasty.
Yeah. At 4 o'clock in the morning. Jesus. So once you come to the end of your boot camp, you go through like the weekend before you graduate. You go through the last challenge, which is called the Crucible. The Crucible is a cycle of events that you go on for a weekend out to the field. You have limited food, limited water, limited amount of sleep. And you're hiking there, so you're hiking 20 miles there with all that weight on your pack, everything, all the gear you need, and they make you pack what you need. They have a gear list for you. It's not like you think, oh, this is essential, I'm gonna do this. This is essential, I'm gonna do this. I don't need anything else. No. They're gonna make you grab the microphone, the laptop. Yo, matter of fact, give me that keyboard. It has to be this way. Let's put this whole room in here. Then you're hiking, and once you get to that spot, once we got there, you would have thought, okay, we're gonna rest or we're gonna eat some chop. Nah, we went straight into it. Had some like battle courses already like made for us to do. I remember like, I'm talking about like the barbed wire. They have like smoke going up and smoke grenades going out. Freaking, they have like loud ass sounds like of copycat imitating like actual war, like people shooting and like saying frag out, like real shit. And then you have to like move with a purpose. You know what I mean? If you're not moving with a purpose, they're grabbing your ass, they're snatching you up, they're bullying you, and they're bringing you all the way back for you to do all over again. You know what I mean? You're going through the sand, and all I remember was them sand fleas biting me and shit. I'm like, oh, this shit sucks. Long story short, you hike back towards that last day, that Sunday night, going into Monday morning. You hike back 20 miles to the drill deck, which is like this big open, like, think of like a parking lot, but this is like where they do the graduation for us to like march.
Yep.
And all that. You right next to the drill deck, right next to the stadium, there's a big statue of Marines posting the flag in Iwo Jima.
Yep. Very famous.
Yeah. That's where we hiked all those 20 miles all the way to form up right in front of that statue. We're all there. Then the drill instructors, one of the drill instructors is, talking. They say what they're saying. Congratulations, completing the crucible, etc. And then drill instructors are going down the lines of each squad, placing a piece of plastic. You would think, like, this piece of plastic is one of the most memorable and most appreciating and most like desirable thing that you've ever like achieved. Like, it's a big achievement, you know what I mean? And it's just like a little black piece of plastic, and it's the EGA, which is the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. It's our symbol. It's what we wear on our covers, or we have like little metal pins right here on our coats and on our uniform. So they put that piece of plastic on your hand, and then that drill instructor tells you congratulations, boom, like a little side talk. And I remember I had this one drill instructor named Staff Sergeant Aguilar. Funny dude. I mean, he can be a real asshole. I ain't gonna lie. He could really fuck you up. But there were times, you can see that, and you're not supposed to see, but you can see that this nigga's a man. Oh, excuse my language, but he's a man. You know what I mean? He's not the monster that you painted. He's another man. So I was thankful and grateful to have him be the one to place that EGA in my hand. He placed it. He said, "I'm proud to call you a brother in the finest arms in the United States Marine Corps, etc." And I ain't gonna lie, I teared up. I'm like, hoorah. And yeah, that was that pride. That's when you actually come to that realization, like, damn, son, like, it wasn't just for the school, it wasn't just for the pay, it wasn't just for no shelter, no food. This is for real. Like, this is like my biggest achievement. I'm doing this not just for, it was fuck my country, but now I'm doing this for my country. I'm doing this for my faith, and I'm doing this for me and my family. You know what I mean?
So it was a transformative experience.
It was a very big transformative experience.
Do you think that's true for everybody? Who?
Yes. I'm not gonna generalize, because there's no such thing as 100%.
Right.
But I will speak for the majority and say it is a very big memorable experience, because when it comes to the Marine Corps, like I said, boot camp is intense. It's not like you're just doing an obstacle course and then you're like, yes, I did. It's not a marathon, you know what I mean? Think of a triathlon, but for a whole 3 weeks, you know what I mean? Like, and nonstop, no breaks. The stuff you go through, like, they really break you down. I had one drill instructor talk about my mama. He noticed he didn't get shit out of me. Then he went on to talk about my pops. I'm shrugging my shoulders, you know what I mean? Mind you, I love my mom and my dad. But the moment he mentioned my grandmother, oh God, I was like, yeah, I want to kill you now. Yeah, nah, they really fuck you up, not just physically, but like also mentally. And that's why I would actually say, like, yes, the more you can go in like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and steal all the military's money, because I'm gonna skate. I'm gonna make sure these skates are sharpened, because I'm gonna be like, right through these 8 years. You know what I mean? And then the moment that you graduate, you're like, hoorah. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's basically how he got me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how he got me.
So how do you are you still in? Or are you done now?
So my contract ended last year. So you technically you do 6 and 2. So 6 years is basically active, or reserves, and then the last 2 would be inactive or dropping down to the reserves or IRR, etc. Or if you're active duty, because that's the reserves option, they give you either 6-2 or 4-4. The active duty option is just 4-4. So you'll do 4 years active duty, and then the 4 years you can either drop down to the reserves if you don't want to re-enlist, of course. If you'll drop down to the reserves, or you can drop down to the IRR, which is basically the individual ready reserve, and that's basically you being inactive. I'm 100% civilian until they call me back up because something's going down, you know what I mean? But my contract ended May 23rd of last year, so, and I was going to re-enlist, but things changed because I want to be a pilot, and they weren't what's the word, cooperating with me to try to get me to be an officer, because officers in the military, commissioned officers are the only ones that can fly. Okay. And in the military as a whole, like even in the Navy, even in the Air Force, you can't be an enlisted military personnel and fly. You need to have a degree.
Gotcha.
And you need to be an officer.
So how, after serving, how are you adjusting back to the civilian life?
If I'm gonna be quite frank with you, it was hard, but it was easier than I thought.
Okay.
Cause no matter what, like, you are gonna have some type of struggle, or feel some type of differences, from what you're used to. Like when I came back, I was waking up at 4:00 in the morning, easy. You know, I remember there was one time I woke up 4:00 in the morning. I literally hygiene, showered, brushed my teeth, boom boom, and put my camis on. And my mom woke up. And she's like, "What are you doing? You gotta go back?" And I'm like, "Oh nah, like it was just so routine. Yeah, it was just so routine." Some people do experience dreams. I didn't have good dreams. Some people, depending on what you've experienced and what you've been through, it's harder for others. Like, cause I had a boy that he was experiencing very bad PTSD. Yeah. To the point where like he was hospitalized a lot.
Wow.
But like I said, it all varies on how mentally strong you are up there, and also what you've been through.
Right.
Because you could be 100% all up there, but sometimes we're not made to see what occurs in certain occasions, in certain situations. So like when you see that, it just fucks you up.
It's part of why I was really happy to have you here, because I think we get, as civilians, especially civilians consuming Hollywood and consuming the news, you get desensitized and these things become normalized. And I think it's really important that we always remember it's not normal. There's nothing about what happens in war should be normalized, should be things that we get desensitized to. We should always be sensitized to every part of this. And just because so many of us are insulated from it, we get to watch it on TV, we don't realize how incredibly not normal it is. And I think for so many people who've served who have the invisible scars from it, it's a really important reminder that the rest of us need to keep front and center.
And that's part of the reason too. I'm glad that you mentioned Hollywood. That's part of the reason too. Like, there's so many homeless veterans, like, because of the fact that they have that little bug in their head. You know what I mean? Because of what they went through, and it's causing them to make the wrong decisions. Either seek help through medications that they don't need, or drugs, etc., or seek help through alcohol, or even just bringing what you routinely done out there to what you're routinely doing over here. And then you have the VA, because there's so many veterans, no, what's the word? I'm not here, trying to speak bad on the VA, because the VA does what they can, but they could do better.
So you anticipated my next question, which is, how is the support for people in your position, people who may have had it worse than you, or are the brothers of yours that that really struggle coming back, for you and for them? How have you found that support?
Timely wise, they suck. Because if you're jacked up, like my knees are bad. Because of what we do, if you're in the infantry, if you're an infantryman, like you're hiking many miles, or the army uses the term rug marching, something like that. If you're hiking many miles, you're hiking with a lot of weight on your back. You're hiking with your Kevlar, you're hiking with your flak, you're hiking with your rifle, and then you got an extra 30 to 40 pounds on your back. You know what I mean? Plus a day pack on top of your main pack, like for you to utilize for when you're doing smaller hikes or whatever. And then on top of it, you're doing that with combat boots. These boots,
heavy, right?
Like you hiking that many miles, with that much weight with these boots, eventually your back is gonna be jacked up, your hips are gonna be jacked up, or your knees. Me, I have patella tendonitis. I have the knees of a 4-year-old man, and I'm pretty young.
Yeah.
I'm only 28. So with that being said, the VA, the moment that you make a claim, it takes forever for a disability claim. It takes forever for them to actually get you through the evaluation, for them to evaluate, to review, to see if you actually deserve the disability. Then you have to go into other screenings, and then after a good 3 to 4 months after that, maybe even longer, then you'll get your results, whether they're gonna approve you then not. Then they're gonna send you your rating, your percentage, how much you're gonna get. And but the whole process for me, I ain't gonna lie, it took me almost a whole year.
Wow.
Yeah, for me to get my disability checks going.
Wow.
And mind you, I had a whole so I had a senior army instructor back in JLTC in high school. Shout out Major Romano. She worked for a company, a group that helps veterans, and it was for free. You know what I mean? Like she'll literally help you go through the disability process. That way you're not doing this stuff by yourself. Because when you're doing it by yourself, fresh out of coming out of deactivating, you're kind of stuck. They kind of ready you. They do ready you towards the end of your deployment, or to the end of your active duty career. They ready you to transition back into the civilian world.
Yep.
They teach you about your benefits with education, the VA loan. They teach you about the disability benefits. They give you a whole handbook, but it's only a week of classes. You know what I mean? I'm a app type learner, practical
Yep.
application. I need to do hands-on things. I need to, I can't just be in a lecture and just listen and think I got it. You know what I mean? When I was in college, I had to literally meet with my TA or meet with my professor daily or weekly, just so I could understand the structure that was being presented. You know what I mean? So she was it. I was fortunate enough to have her to help me file my claim and go through all the steps, going seeing my PCP and having them write down what they need to write down, what's going on with my body,
right.
etc. And even with that assistance, it still took long. You know what I mean? You would have thought it would have been expedited or whatever. I even went to the VA one time, talked to one social worker at the VA, and she helped me call to see how we could get this expedited, because I was still missing my PTSD eval. Evaluation, there was a lot. You know?
So it's just a case of not enough resources available for all the people who served, for all the vets.
Yeah, I feel like what they could do better is potentially maybe if things are taking too long, hire more people. I work for the Department of Unemployment right now, right? And we have a freaking high call volume, stupid high call volume, where we're getting like thousands of calls each day, because we're not only taking claimants in the state of Mass, but also outside of Mass, because you could work from home. You could work for a company that is outside of Mass and then work out here, or you could work partially here and then work partially over there. You know what I mean? And still collect from Mass. And I get it all the time from a claimant. Oh, like I'll try my best to help, but when I tell them, yo, you gotta wait, like there's nothing I can do.
Yep.
They get frustrated and pissed off because they're like, yo, I just waited on the line for like an hour, 2 hours, and this is what I'm getting as an answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish I could do more. I wish I had a button to press and boom, the funds are released.
It feels like it's across the board, like insurance companies, all of that
the
stuff. It's
government,
like,
federally.
the government doesn't want to give people their money. And it feels like that's basically what it is like they're just filibustering you into submission. Like, oh, just, wait a couple more months is fine. But, like, I see the money that is supposed to be mine. Why can't you just give it to me? Why do I have to validate? Why do I have to jump through all of these hoops in order to get it? Like, you having to, like, go through all of these evaluation processes to prove that, obviously, your knees, your PTSD, like, and you're in the, like, you're someone that I feel like should be priority, that should be getting these things, and you still have to go through almost a year of all of these. Like, it feels like the government just doesn't want to give the money away.
Yeah,
it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, and I think all this, it's why I find some of the support our troops stuff seems so disingenuous from some, especially from the politicians,
Well,
because support them. Yeah, again, how about we don't start any more wars until we take care of all the homeless and injured veterans?
That was
maybe that
something that I keep wanting to ask, but I'm like, kind of feels like a stupid question, but like, how does it feel like coming back and hearing all of these arguments of like people like either defending you or like we're against the military, all of this stuff, and you're just like, it feels like noise, you know what I mean? So like, how does it feel coming back to all of these like arguments of people that don't even have a real concept of what's going on overseas and what your job is, what you do?
So I don't really one thing that I was taught in the military is I don't really do politics.
My cousin's in the Navy, and
they literally tell you,
she's like, I can't have an opinion, but I do fight for your freedom of speech.
Yeah, so it's like, and primarily the reason why is so that we're not focused on that our focus is supposed to be what's going on, because the military as a whole is a different world, you know what I mean? That's why we say this is the civilian sector and this is the military sector.
We
have our own world.
I went to an event for my cousin, and like her peers just kept talking to me. I was like, I'm a civilian. I'm so sorry. I like really don't know what you're talking to me about right now, but I will listen.
Same thing with the prison. Same with the prison life too. Like, like I have a buddy of mine. He was in the feds, and he told me like, and mind you, like prior to that, he was in the military as well. He told me that like the prison life is kind of like when he got there, it was kind of like boot camp. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's a whole different world. Yeah. You know what I mean? They have, because you're in there for quite a while or maybe even forever. You know what I mean? And you have to get used to that lifestyle. It's a different culture. Same thing here. Like, it's a different culture, and then the military is a different culture. You have certain laws to abide by, certain policies and rules, and then you rock. That you carry yourself a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, a civilian could walk, eating, being on the phone, eating and being on the phone, drinking water, all walking. You do that shit on base. You better hope to gosh that ain't getting, you don't see an officer around, because they see you, boom, you get written up, you get a page 11, or you're getting some type of trouble, because they're little rats. But
so
is that just because you don't have like your wits about you? Like, what is that? Why?
What do you mean?
Like, why couldn't you be on the phone eating an apple walking?
Because we're professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was always the excuse. We are professional. Why you shave your face? We are professional. Why do you have to wear your cover outside but you can't wear it inside? Because we're professional. You know what I mean? It was always a professional thing, and I get it. You know what I mean? You know, they withhold us to the old core values, like to the way things was, to the way the OGs ran the military. You know what I mean? Like, for example, just recently, within the past couple to few years, the Marine Corps just allowed for people to being able to get sleeves. While I was in, for the longest time, they had very strict tattoo policies. Mind you, I'm covered. Well, not completely covered, but if I was to take off my sweater right now, you're probably gonna only see a little bit of a tat right here. You know what I mean? That's off of a tat to my shoulder. Everything else is like, you would think, okay, he doesn't really have tattoos. But it's because of the fact that we have to hide our tattoos. If you're gonna have tattoos that are exposed, like for example, in the elbow area, it has to be 2 inches from the elbow up here, 2 inches from the elbow down here, 2 inches from the wrist. No hand tattoos unless you were grandfathered in. Because my receiving drill instructor that received us when we first got off the bus, he had like fire palms, like he had like flames coming out of his palm. I'm like, yo, this nigga's a gangster. If you're gonna have a tattoo in your forearm or on your arm, you need to be able to cover it with your hand. That's how big it has to be.
Okay.
You can't have no. You can have a band, but it can't be more than like it can't be excessive. So like stuff like that, right? There's certain things that they put into place to make us professional.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? The shaved face. Like, I never understood that, because it's like, why do Navy SEALs or why can't the special forces grow a beard, but I can't? What is a beard gonna do to affect me with my combat? You know what I mean? Like, I never understood. I feel like
if it's clean, it's professional, no?
But like, it shouldn't matter when you're in the field, or it shouldn't matter like if it shouldn't matter as long as it's groomed. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like if you're shaving, you're more prone to getting sick or more prone to getting infected. You know what I mean? So like, why do we gotta do it?
Yeah.
So I want to ask one more question, because I want to get into your opinion on a totally different topic. So it seems pretty clear what our leaders can do better with regard to actually taking care of our military veterans. Just resources and actual dedication to the cause. But for the rest of us, for civilians, what can we do better to support veterans?
To support veterans, in all honesty, that's a good question.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Actually taking, I don't want to say feelings, because, you know, if there's Marines watching this, they're going to be like, excuse me, we don't have feelings. But actually, like, taking the things that we've gone through into consideration. Yes, you can come up to me and say thank you for your service, but that's the same way as you politely saying thank you for holding that door, when in reality, I don't care that you hold the door for me, you know what I mean? But because it's a social norm, you have to show manners and say thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's part of the reason why I say thank you for your support, because it's like, it's real, but at the same time, if you're just saying thank you for your service, just to say thank you for your service, I'm going to say thank you for your support, even though I know you don't really care.
Right. So how do we really care?
Yeah, that's the hard thing, because I'm like, you come back and like, what can we say or do that would actually be something that like makes a difference to you? Because like you can't go through something so significant and not have that impact you.
Yeah,
like
not for a fact.
Marines, you don't have feelings, but
Yeah.
we know. Like, is there a way that we could be more sensitive to that? Or is there something that you encounter frequently other than that you're like, I wish that wouldn't happen?
That's a good point. Yeah. Is there something we can stop doing?
Like, yeah.
Maybe that's easier.
How can we not be
And
ignorant?
honestly, the only thing I can say is that I've experienced since coming back into the civilian world is the ignorance. Like, if you don't know about the military, how do I explain it?
Don't stereotype.
Yeah, like don't stereotype or don't like
Have arguments.
don't just take a guess. Like if okay, for example, I had a friend, right? And she what was she saying? She thought the army was the military. You know what I mean? The military is the umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the umbrella, you have webs.
Yep.
You have 5 branches: Marines, Air Force, Navy, Army, and Coast Guard. Oh, 6 branches because they added the Space Force. Weirdos. Freaking. You have those branches, and then within those branches, you have the enlisted and the commissioned side. Then you have the reserves, and it's so in depth. You know what I mean? But some people don't really care enough to know that they'll just be like, yeah, weren't you in the army? And like, that's one thing that gets a Marine pissed off.
Yeah.
When you be like, yeah, so I had this boy TJ. Yeah, he was in the army. I'm your boy. Like you've been knowing me for how long? You see on my Instagram it says USMC. It doesn't say Army soldier. And that I guess I got used to it, but some Marine, like when I first came back, I actually took a little offense to it. I used to get tight because it's like I'm not no soldier. I'm a Marine. You know what I mean? I earned that title. I earned that respect. Mm-hmm. And there's some people that may view it as like, okay, bro, like you're doing too much. It's not that deep. Yes, it's that deep when you go through what you went through. You know what I mean?
No, my cousin used to, because I mean, yeah, I'll admit I was that ignorant for a moment, and I don't know all the branches of the military, and so I would say something. Yeah, I do now. I would say something like, "Oh, she's in the Marines" or something, and she'd be like, "I'm in the Navy." And would just, I'm in the Navy. And then she would go off on people just don't know. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. So that's why I ask questions and I listen. And when I ask a question, I preface it with being like, I don't know shit. I'm just a civilian. Yeah. I don't know shit. And I think more people should probably either stay quiet or admit that you don't know.
Or ask questions.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to start it off with a statement. Yo, what was the branch you hired again? Marines? Oh, yeah. So, how was the Marine? You know what I mean? Last thing. It's like equivalent. I don't want to say equivalent because it's kind of not that deep in relation to what I'm going to say, but it's like calling someone that's Puerto Rican a Mexican. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the ignorant factor. Like the amount of times that I was called a Mexican when I was I live in Ipswich, and I don't know if you know Ipswich. Ipswich is a very homogenous town. Yep. Very white. And they would always call me Mexican, and I'd be like, I'm Colombian! It's just, it is that deep.
That's wild ignorant because there's really not that many Mexican people around here, so I don't know what the fuck you're coming up with that.
Well, it's like that concept that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is from Mexico.
Right. But again, that's really ignorant.
It's so ignorant.
Well, so it sounds like getting educated and being curious rather than judgmental on things is a good start. Speaking of which, I want to get your opinion on something else that you're passionate about. So we're going to completely switch gears right now. I would love to have you back to talk more military stuff in the future. And any of you guys out there who want to come give your take, again, I think this is such an important focus for us, that we really are in touch with the reality of the world around us, and the fact that our country and our lives depend heavily on our military and our men and women in uniform. We need to make sure we're keeping the front of mind and never taking any of this stuff for granted, because it's serious shit. That said, something a little lighter. Sports gambling has become very popular. This is something exactly. So TJ's into this, so I figured it'd be a good topic that we could talk about. Something a little lighter to end on. So I've noticed something about sports gambling ads lately. They have some really they're swinging with some big balls here. They have all of like the top celebrities, top athletes, very expensive people to book in their ads are doing these ads. And actually Ontario, Canada is doing something about it. Des, if you'll give me my screen real quick.
Last year, Ontario opened the door for third-party
Hold on.
gambling sites to
What's up? No, sorry.
offer single-game
I think
betting.
That Jesse from
What?
Boston?
Breaking Bad?
Over under? How's your action this week?
They all lost.
Yeah, so run me over.
Fair enough.
Many of the commercials featured celebrities, even the great one.
Trying to practice here, Wayne.
You need it.
But this now is being banned. The Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario says it will no longer allow athletes, both retired and current, or other celebrities, to appear in commercials promoting gambling in Ontario.
So Ontario, Canada banning these commercials. I'm just giving you an example of one with big celebrities in it. Jesus,
Tap
sorry.
into BetMGM
Good Lord,
Casino,
my
and
bad.
You're entering a huge library full of exclusive games. Games you won't find anywhere else. Looking for jackpots? Right this way. You'll always find someone ready to give you a hand. Or some dice. Your favorite game is waiting for you.
So we've moved beyond just sports gambling. Sports gambling was the sort of the big one that really has been promoted over the last few years. But the one that I've noticed now too is these at-home casinos or swipe games of gambling of different kinds. I'm a little nervous about this advent for working people. I'm really nervous about it because when I go into, I've been to a casino a few times. I'm not a gambler, but when I walk into a casino, the first thing that occurs to me is, this place must have cost a lot of fucking money. There's an awful lot of bright lights. Everything is shiny and fancy. There's a lot of money, and if they're willing to put this amount of money into this building, or into hiring Vanessa Hudgens for a commercial, or Wayne Gretzky, or Jamie Foxx, or whatever, they're making an awful lot of money. And to me, where's that money coming from? It's coming from the people that are playing the games.
Vegas.
I'm a little nervous about this, and I am someone who's very, on social issues, I'm a libertarian. I don't think that these things should be illegal. I don't want the government banning gambling. When we ban things like gambling, they just go to the undergrounds. There was sports gambling forever, and before it was legal, it was just done by organized crime of some description. So I'm not advocating for the banning of any of these things. But I'm also real fucking nervous about it. What do you think?
I feel like I equate gambling to like cigarettes. You know how cigarettes kill. They have to have that on the label. Like cigarettes can kill or cause cancer, I feel like gambling can cause addiction, can take all of your money, might make you go broke. We need some disclaimers in the commercials.
In the commercials. So okay.
Do they give disclaimers on like the apps and
on
stuff?
The actual app.
They're like,
so like it's not. It's more like if they notice, because they do notice that you've lost this amount of money.
They tell you.
and then you're adding this amount of money into you're depositing this amount of money to then potentially lose that amount of money again. You know what I mean? Or maybe even win that back your money. Who knows? They'll pop up like an option to like set a limit, like a budget limit, what's it called? A loss limit or something like that. Like once you lose a certain amount, that's it. You can't deposit any more money.
Is that by
until the next day?
month? Oh, until the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just daily.
Yeah, it's daily. Yeah. But like it's not as like restricting, but they do like kind of, and they also have a helpline. They put that. They make sure they put that up. Yeah. They have like a 1-800.
They have that in the ads.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's in the little text on the bottom or whatever,
Okay.
but they do say, and you do see ads for the gambling helplines. I listen to sports radio because I'm a loser, but they on sports radio. Obviously, sports radio is very heavily funded by gambling revenue. DraftKings, all those are always advertising on sports radio, and they will put those little like, if you need help or if you or someone you know needs help. Exactly, you
It's
can call.
gotten a lot better because prior to DraftKings, prior to FanDuel, there was the same thing that was going on. There was websites, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna say who, but I have a lot of friends that are bookies, you know what I mean? Or that were bookies before like FanDuel and DraftKings became a thing. Even when I was in high school, I made my first sports bet when I was probably like a freshman in high school, and that was me going to, you know, Lawrence. There's a lot of multi-service. There's a lot of barber shops. There's a lot of mechanics. There's a lot of multi-service. Whatever. In the back of the barber shop, in the back of the multi-service, you have a place where you could go ahead and put in your bets. You know, right near my crib, like down the street, like a good 5-minute walk. You can go ahead. I want the Celtics money line. Boom, boom. Okay. Lakers +8, so they could lose by 8 or win the game. That's looking good. Okay. Here's $50. This is how much I win. Okay. Boom. That ticket hits. I come back. Yo, here's my ticket. Give me my money. Give me my money. You know what I mean? That's what it was prior to that. There was never no support system while you were going through that, because they're like, true. I don't care that you have this problem. The more that I know you have this problem, the more money that's coming into my pocket. I'm a bookie. I don't care about you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
that. So you're thinking, like, you kind of make it sound like it's getting a little bit better.
It's gotten better. I mean, I'm not saying gambling's good. Like, you know, don't gamble. If you have not gambled, don't gamble. But it's gotten better than what it was. They actually put like that assistance. It's like, I don't want to say it like that, but like, you know how they got the suicide line, now they got the gambling line. You know what I mean?
So I think like it's a common thing when you take things from the underground and you make them legal, right? So it's the same thing like with marijuana, right? Like same, but like you have. People are getting higher quality buds now for less money in a safer system than they were when it was illegal.
Yes.
So like
maybe.
DZ's not so convinced. I mean, to be honest, I'm not so convinced either. But theoretically, this is the case, right? There's more access to this. The prices have certainly come down because of the free market in that case.
Oh yeah.
You notice why the prices went down?
What do you mean?
I feel like anytime there's a discount or anytime there's like a reduction, it's for a certain reason. And for weed, I like the dispensary weed, I just can't buy it anymore. Like it just makes me, it doesn't hit the same. Like I've smoked different grades of like weed from the streets.
That's actually a huge thing happening within the cannabis industry right now. Is like they're basically microwaving weed, so that there's no mold, pesticides, but it's frying the weed, so you're like paying for this it's been 20% THC testing, but it literally smokes like you're like mid.
Interesting. I have a friend who's watching who's a expert on this topic, and a grower and a great knower of strains and all the details. This is his topic, so I will be coming to talk to you and getting your take on this. I'm very interested to hear his take on this thing, because I think he might agree. So that's interesting. So we think. So am I silly to be scared about the results of gambling, or do you think? What do you think?
Gambling is not good.
He said, "Let me start there."
If I'm gonna be quite frank with you, I'm down more than I'm up. You're always gonna be down more than you're up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The problem is when you have an addiction. And I know I have an addiction to gambling, and you know I face it.
Always wins.
The house always wins, and no matter how much you are up, you're not gonna go back, and then you're probably gonna go down. Now, if I'm gonna be quite frank, you can sometimes find a little system that works for you.
Yep.
Works with you. You know what I mean? Like I've been doing good for the past. I also been doing good in regards to putting in the bets. Like when FanDuel first came out, oh man. I was hot the first month, and then I started putting $500 in each ticket, and then next thing you know, I'm down like $5,000. Yeah, like it was crazy. But as of lately, I would bet more like $50 or $100 max. You know what I mean? And I've been coming up that way. I wish I could be bold and put that 500 on the ones that I win, but that's how
Right.
you're just recycling. You know what I mean?
Engineer Does, you got something to say on this topic?
Yeah. So what I was gonna say was about how they are advertising a lot of stuff to kids, which is the scary part of it. I remember watching a video about CoffeeZilla. He has like there's a really good analysis video about Are any of you familiar with CS:GO? It's a very popular game. Within the game there is a system of cases where you can re-roll it, and like it's gambling essentially. It's gambling for kids.
Huh.
And there's a game on like Roblox where it's like Plinko. If you know what Plinko is, where it's you put in a certain amount of money, the ball drops down, you times whatever your original bet was.
So gambling, grooming.
Exactly.
I was
No,
like
literally
indoctrination, very young. Love
And
it.
great point, Des. Thank you.
Let me tell you something about those commercials, though. If there are any gamblers in the chat right now, do not take any bets from any celebrities. Like sometimes you'll see in the like this past Super Bowl, you know, I remember I saw Drewski. Anybody know who Drewski is? Yeah, Drewski made a bet on a particular player props and whatever, what he thought. There's a reason why he's giving you that bet. He's getting paid to tell you what he believes. It's not what he believes. It's Vegas. Vegas has a system. Vegas is here to fuck you because Vegas does not want you to take their money. That's how Vegas stays up. Vegas is part of the government. Vegas pays the government. You know, this is all connected. So that's why like when you see that, okay, Celtics is the, oh my gosh, you have the, why am I losing my brain?
Well, like favorite?
There we go. You have the favorite and the underdog. I don't know why I couldn't think about that. Hey, I'm a gambler. So let's say Celtics is the underdog, but they're going against a team that is not even close to being better than them. You know what I mean? The reason why they would be that underdog is because of the amount of people that is betting on that other team.
Yeah.
And the reason why the people are betting on that other team is because, either they did their own analyses, etc., or whatever. What Vegas is going to end up doing is because initially the Celtics, let's say they weren't the underdog, they were even. Because initially the Celtics was even, they're going to raise the Celtics to be the favorite so that potentially it could balance out, okay, oh, wait, that team is the underdog. The Celtics is a nasty team. Tatum is playing today. I bet no, I got the Celtics. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. It's that persuasion that it makes you go ahead and psychologically change your initial approach or your potential approach. You know what I mean?
They're manipulating you to try and get you to bet. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there you go, folks. You heard it right from the gambler. Don't gamble. and Vegas is always going to try and fuck you with using psychology. TJ, it has been so great having you join us today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a lot. Really excited to have had you here today. Any last words, guys? TJ, anything you'd like to leave us with?
To be honest, not. I do want to come back. If you guys,
I would love to have you back.
If you guys have any questions when it comes to the military, that's something that I love. I love doing. I just recently had a guy on that wanted to join the Air Force, and it doesn't have to be Marine Corps related. It could be military as a whole. I had a guy that I go to the gym. I see him all the time. He was going through boot camp. He has basic training coming up. He's nervous. I don't know about Air Force basic training, but I know about boot camp. You know what I mean? So I can tell him what I experienced, and I can tell him how and what to do so he can knock off those nerves and just get through it.
Yeah, that's great to be supportive of other people.
Yeah. In
that position. Well, thank you. Hey, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, tj.soto_. It's literally my name, TJ Soto.
We'll get that linked so everyone can see it. Thank you very much.
Pretty much it,
yeah, I appreciate it. DZ, what do you got? Anything you'd like to leave us with today?
It was definitely great having you on the show. I appreciate you for taking the time to come here and share a lot of your experiences.
Bless,
appreciate it.
Amberly, final thoughts?
Yeah. No, thank you for coming on. Everyone, ask questions. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me.
Mm-hmm.
So better be inquisitive than ignorant.
Very good point. Engineer Des, any last words for the day?
Put all in black.
On that note, thank you very much. Thank you guys for all being here. We'll make sure that you can find links to everybody, where to find everybody in the comments. We will be back next week, 7 o'clock for our Sunday news wrap up and 8 o'clock for the Doing Better show. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you to my guests and panel and lovely people who are part of the Doing Better community. See you guys later. Take it easy.